You don't notice it at first. It doesn't feel like control. It feels like a conversation, a suggestion, a subtle shift in how you see things. One moment you're confident in your thoughts. The next you're second-guessing yourself, wondering if you misunderstood, overreacted, or imagined something that felt very real just seconds ago. That's how it begins, not with force, not with obvious manipulation, but with something far more dangerous, influence that feels natural. You start adjusting your behavior not because you were told to, but because something inside you says it's the right thing to do. You apologize when you shouldn't. You explain yourself when no explanation is needed. You feel guilty without knowing why. And the most unsettling part, you believe these thoughts are your own, but they're not. Someone planted them carefully, slowly, repeatedly. This is how manipulators work. They don't control your actions directly. They control the way you think. And once they do that, everything else follows. By the end of this video, you won't just understand manipulation. You'll start seeing it everywhere. Before we go deeper, I want to be clear. Everything discussed on this channel is strictly for educational purposes. Understanding dark psychology is about building awareness, not weaponizing it. If you or someone you know is in a harmful situation, please seek support from a licensed professional. This is a space for growth, clarity, and protection. Nothing else. Manipulation isn't always loud, aggressive, or obvious. In fact, the most effective manipulation is quiet, subtle, and almost invisible. At its core, manipulation is the act of influencing someone's thoughts, emotions, or decisions in a way that benefits the manipulator, often without the other person realizing it's happening. But here's where it becomes dangerous. Manipulators don't just tell you what to do, they shape how you feel about what you're doing. Imagine this. You're in a conversation with someone you trust. They question something you said, not aggressively, but just enough to make you pause. Then they add a small comment. You always misunderstand things like this. It sounds minor, harmless even. But later, you find yourself replaying that moment, doubting your memory, wondering if you really do misunderstand things. That's not an accident. That's the beginning of control. And the deeper you go into this dynamic, the harder it becomes to separate your own thoughts from the ones that were placed there. Layer 1, emotional hooks. The first layer of manipulation is emotional. Manipulators don't start with logic. They start with feelings. Because emotions bypass your critical thinking. They learn what triggers you, what makes you feel guilty, what makes you feel valued, what makes you fear losing someone. Then they use it. For example, someone might say, "After everything I've done for you, this is how you treat me." Notice what just happened. They didn't address the actual situation. They triggered guilt, and once guilt enters the conversation, your focus shifts. You stop thinking clearly and start trying to fix the feeling. That's the hook. And once you're emotionally hooked, you become easier to influence. Because now, you're not responding with clarity. You're reacting with emotion. And that's exactly where they want you. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Layer 2, reality distortion. Once the emotional hook is in place, the next step is subtle distortion of reality. This is where your perception begins to shift. Not all at once, but gradually. You might hear things like, "That's not what happened," or "You're remembering it wrong," or "You're overthinking again." Each statement seems small, but over time they stack. And eventually you begin to question your own memory, your own judgment, your own instincts. Imagine constantly being told that your version of events isn't accurate. At first you resist, but after enough repetition, something changes. You start doubting yourself before anyone else even has the chance to. And that's the moment control deepens, because now they don't need to argue with you anymore. You're already doing it for them, inside your own mind. Most people stop here, but you need to know the next layer. Layer 3, identity reprogramming. This is the deepest level. This is where manipulation stops being about moments and starts becoming about who you believe you are. The manipulator subtly defines you. You're too sensitive. You always overreact. You're not good at handling situations like this. At first you reject it, but over time, especially when paired with emotional pressure and reality distortion, these statements begin to stick. And once they become part of your identity, everything changes. Because now you're not just doubting your thoughts, and you're doubting yourself. You begin to act in alignment with those labels. You stay quiet when you should speak. You apologize when you've done nothing wrong. You tolerate behavior that once felt unacceptable, not because you chose to, but because you've been conditioned to believe that's who you are. Here's the truth most people never realize. Manipulation doesn't work because manipulators are powerful. It works because they understand something about human nature that most people ignore. You want connection. You want to be understood. You want to feel valued. And because of that, you're willing to adjust yourself to maintain those feelings. That's not weakness. That's human. But manipulators exploit it. They don't force control, they invite it. They create situations where you choose the path that benefits them, because it feels like the only way to preserve the relationship, the peace, or your sense of belonging. So the real danger isn't just the manipulator. It's the moment you stop trusting yourself and start relying on them to define what's real, what's right, and what's acceptable. That's when control becomes complete. So how do you protect yourself from something this subtle? The answer isn't confrontation. It's awareness. Strategy 1. Pause before reacting. When you feel a sudden emotional surge, guilt, confusion, pressure, pause. That emotional spike is often the entry point of manipulation. Giving yourself even a few seconds creates space between the trigger and your response. Strategy 2. Track patterns, not moments. Manipulation isn't about one conversation. It's about repeated patterns. Pay attention to how you consistently feel after interacting with someone. Confused? Drained? Doubtful? That pattern tells you more than any single situation. Strategy 3. Re-anchor to your reality. Write things down. Reflect on conversations. When you externalize your thoughts, it becomes harder for someone to distort them. You create a reference point that isn't influenced by someone else's narrative. Strategy 4. Trust discomfort as data. If something feels off, it probably is. You don't need immediate proof. Discomfort is often your mind recognizing inconsistency before you can logically explain it. Respect that signal instead of dismissing it. Think about the last time you walked away from a conversation feeling confused, questioning yourself, or emotionally drained. Now ask yourself this: was that confusion created by the situation, or was it placed there? And more importantly, which of these patterns do you recognize in your own life right now? Manipulation doesn't begin with control. It begins with influence. It doesn't take your power away instantly. It slowly convinces you to give it away. And the moment you start recognizing these patterns, that's the moment you take it back. In our next video, we're going to expose one of the most silent psychological tactics, and something so subtle, most people don't even realize it's happening until it's too late. If this gave you something to think about, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to keep learning the psychology